Hi, welcome to another episode of Chatting with the Chief. I'm Jim May. I'm the police chief here in Northglenn. One of the things I just got finished up doing were interviews with officers that'll be going to the July Academy. So I finished that up and I thought, it would be great to talk about that adventure with two of our newest officers about to hit the road all by themselves in the next couple weeks. So they started that process last year about this time. They interviewed with me and then they got ready for the July Academy. So with me today is Rece and Oscar, and I was gonna welcome.
Thank you.
And tell me about your adventure. And first off, tell me why you chose Northglenn to come work for, and then talk about how the academy went for you and all that process and what you enjoyed about it and what you didn't enjoy about it so much.
Okay, well, I'll go first. My name's Officer Legg. I started the July Academy last year. Oscar and I went through the entire academy together. It was a really, really fun experience. I didn't think that it was going to be much fun. I thought it was going to be very militaristic and scary. And going into it, I had never shot a handgun before. I've never shot a gun before, period. And so I was really just looking to get that experience and feel comfortable with all the weapon systems that we use so that I knew how to use them, but also just comfortable in CRS, knowing what I was doing and making decisions that I felt confident in making. Around the city, you see all of these banners of support of different communities that need that help, that need that support. And I just feel like Northglenn Police Department did an amazing job of showing that. I applied for a plethora of departments, and I just felt like even just driving in the city, I felt a sense of community. I could feel the presence of the police department. You're constantly seeing cars out on the street patrolling, and it just, no matter how much crime is in the city or all the calls that we get all day, at least we'll be there when you need us. And I remember driving to my chief's interview, and I passed a sign that said, we stand against racism, we hear you, we see you, we are you. And I just thought to myself, if I get an offer from Northglenn Police Department, I'm 100% taking it. It's my first choice. This is exactly where I want to be. And throughout the academy, Northglenn Police Department was just so much more involved than every other police department that was there. And no knock on any other police department. They were all great. And I loved all of the cadets that we went through the academy with, all of the instructors. It was an amazing experience. But to see our command staff there, to see our recruiting staff there constantly asking us, how are you? What do you need help with? What can we assist you with? It was just really powerful and motivating while I was in the academy. And then having Oscar over here, I think that one of the craziest things that we constantly get is how long have you guys known each other? And then we're a year, not even a year yet. And people all the time are just there's no way it's just been a year. But it's that sense of camaraderie that you get through the Northglenn Police Department, but also just in law enforcement in general. It's that sense of camaraderie, you're my brother, you're my sister, no matter what you're doing, I will be there for you. And we just really bonded through the academy and just built that brother-sister relationship where we could help each other with whatever we were struggling with. He, of course, was excelling in skills, so firearms, DTAC, anything we were doing, driving, anything we were doing with skills, he was excelling. And then I was over here excelling in academics.
Oh, that's great. Oscar, what about you?
I'm Officer Quinonez. Everyone calls me Q. Mm-hmm. Reason I chose Northglenn is because when I was going to school, I graduated from Metro. When I was initially going there, one of my professors had told me that one of these smaller cities like Northglenn, they named a couple others, but Northglenn really was the one that stuck with me. They were Northglenn, they really help you develop your foundation for a law enforcement career, so look into that. So I started looking into Northglenn. I remember I applied here. They were like, hey, come do your physical exam. And it's a funny story because I did the physical, but I forgot to pick up a bag, and I got disqualified after that. And it was it sucked, but I got to meet Officer Lund. Everyone who was in that recruiting group, they were really nice, and the camaraderie that was within Northglenn when I came in just for an hour and a half, it really stuck with me. So they told me, hey, come back and we'll try it again. So obviously I came back. The academy was a fun process. a lot of people spoke about the academy being like one of the hardest things you'll do in your life. And it was extremely difficult just because it's just something new, something that you've never done before. Learning laws, which is practically new to me, learning CRS, learning the verbiage on that, learning how different statutes are different from one another. We try to strive to be the best. Officer Legg over here got, what was it, academic?
Top academic.
Top academic. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any of that, but.
Well,
you tried hard.
I
yes,
tried.
Yeah, and he completed his degree while he was going through the academy.
That's awesome.
So on top of doing and completing the academy and getting good grades still, he also got his degree while he was doing all that, which that's a hard. That's
doing
a
those
hard
at the
feat.
same time. That's an
Yeah, it
accomplishment.
was tough, but I mean, if you put your mind to it, you know, anything can be done. But yeah, academy was fun. Obviously, graduation, seeing all you guys there, seeing your guys' support, you know, it pushes us to keep going. Entering our in-house academy, you know, just get through that. In-house academy, we built great bonds with the new officers that were coming in as well with us. That was a fun experience. And then now going through field training.
That's a little stressful.
Yeah, it is stressful. It does take a little toll, but at the end of the day, it's just you're getting better at your job, and all you can do is improve and keep learning.
I think because we made such good friends in the academy, we know how much more rigorous the FTO program and the in-house program are than other police departments. And when you're going through it, you're like, man, like, geez, like, wow, I should have like maybe thought about it. And then you get to this end where like, you know, we're in our last couple weeks and like, it's just like, if I didn't have this, if I didn't, you know, go through a week of their DTAC and their scenarios and their officer safety, I would have never known anything like that, because police departments act so differently, especially like there's a very small difference between a sheriff's office and a police department, but their trainings are so much more different because their situations and their calls are so much more different. So coming and getting our own training with Northglenn police officers who are seasoned and talented and trained was so beneficial in the long run. And when you're in it, it's stressful and it's like, oh my goodness, I just need a break, like please. But then when you're out of it, you're like, if I would have taken a break, if I would have quit, you know, if I wouldn't have gotten through what I got through in-house or in FTO even, and in this call and that call, then I would not be the officer that I am. And I don't think that I could give what Northglenn community needs to them. I don't think I could serve them adequately. And that's what we both want, is just to be able to outreach to our community and be the officers that they need us to be and want us to be.
No, that's great. So kind of selfish reasons, another that I have you here today, right? So I've been doing this job a long time, and I've always said that there's not another profession that's more noble or honorable than being a police officer. And that dedication and that, you know, that calling to serve your community. And so that's really exciting. But what does for me is I see the excitement, the enthusiasm that you guys have, and that kind of makes me smile, because, you know, it takes me back to the time when I was a new officer, walking to that car for the first time, which hasn't happened to you guys on your solo, right? So there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm by myself. I'm making the decision. I don't have this person sit next to me. And you're going to remember that your whole career. You're going to remember some of these calls that you go on for, you know, that you'll remember your first call, right? And how you reacted and how you responded. When you got out of the academy, do you remember the first thing you guys were assigned to do?
Oh my goodness, yes. Be Santa.
That's right.
We did the Christmas crusade, and that was so fun. That is my jam. I love community outreach. I love going and talking with people. I could literally just sit and talk to anybody for hours and just find something in common. And I think that Quinonez here is a little bit more shy than I am, but it doesn't matter. You see these kids and you're just like, I just want to help. I just want to see one of these kids smile. I just want to do something. And you could see him open up and just like want to talk to people. And one thing that I've always admired about Officer Quinonez is that he's Spanish speaking and he has a very strong passion for his community and to help his community. And in Northglenn, 33% of our population is Spanish speaking. Yeah. And so it's important to have officers like Quinonez to help that community and to be able to have an officer there in person instead of a language line, which language lines are amazing, but sometimes for our victims, for our witnesses that have seen tragic incidents, for our suspects who are trying to explain something and can't reiterate and can't explain it in a different language, it helps to have someone there that can just stand there in front of them and be an actual officer, the officer that they need. And so with the Christmas Crusade, we had a lot of Spanish-speaking families come through, and I just remember like when we were actually there handing out the gifts, I would run up to a car and be like, what's your number? Like, we have your gifts. And they would ask, do you have a Spanish-speaking officer? And I'm like, yes. And it felt so good to just be like, yes, we have somebody for you that can help you. And he was there on every single one of them. Whatever they needed and wanted, like, he knew exactly how to help them and exactly what they needed.
So I saw the same thing. And I saw it with the kids just light up when they saw you. All the little ones, right? Even, the little girls are looking up to you as you're bringing them in, and the smiles, and when you're handing them out, the presents. And Oscar, when you were, talking to kids in Spanish, just really, and that's where you inspire. And, I watched you guys, work that event and watching that and the reaction that you guys had with the kids. And that's so important in our community. That's one of the main things I think we do incredibly well is that, community outreach. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the expectations I have of you guys, which right? Yes. That's a first job I threw you at, was that community event. And you're going to do so many more. Mm-hmm. And just on that engagement and talking to people and being a Spanish speaker in our community is incredible. Matter of fact, you can even talk, if you want to say some, things in Spanish of, try to inspire other ones to come do this job, you can do that too, Oscar. I won't put you on the spot right now, but you can totally do that. You can, answer the questions in Spanish if you'd like today. So, because we do have, a large Hispanic population in our community, and so that's an engagement that we want to make sure that we hear them as well. So that's good. Yeah. So when you started your FTO, the in-service was pretty tough.
Yes.
So, probably 6 weeks of in-service?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what's the hardest part about the in-service training? So that's where you go from the academy. So we have a regional academy that we work with the Sheriff's Department, and there's agencies from all over the metro area that send new recruits to that academy, and then they build that foundation. Then you come back to us, and then we kind of teach you like the Northglenn way, right? Just to add to that knowledge. So what was the hardest thing in service for you?
I think the hardest thing was actually doing our defensive tactics. And that week was it was probably one of the most toughest in just a physical and mental manner. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm grateful that we have that DTAC week because it does teach you how to stay alive. Even though there's a lot of people that don't think about it, they're like, oh, they're doing too much. No, that's not going to happen. But obviously, DTAC puts you in situations that you may or may not see. But either way, doing this job, you have to be ready for anything you come across of. DTAC week was one of those weeks where, like the second day, I woke up and I was like, I can't. I'm not capable of going back. But I was like, nope, we have to. Mm-hmm. Speaking to all the DTAC instructors, they would always tell you, hey man, you never know where you're gonna come across of. Obviously, this is probably a terrible week for you guys because it's mentally exhausting, physically exhausting. But if you're able to get through this, just imagine all the things you're able to get through.
It brought us closer to the people that we didn't go to academy with. We had 2 laterals and another officer who went to a different police academy than we did. We were just close, and so we would talk to each other, and kind of everybody was kind of just finding out like who is who, and we weren't really talking that much. And then we went to DTAC, and like with it, I think the second day we like made a group chat, and we were like, man, like I am sore, and like what do you guys do to help relieve this soreness? And so like everyone was like sharing their ideas, like, oh, take an ice bath, get some Epsom salt, like here, use this. And like by the end of the week, we were sharing each other's wraps for our knuckles and doing whatever we could to help each other. And when we finished, we all went out to eat that night and just celebrate the fact that we had completed it and we're on to the next phase. But in addition to that, I think Northglenn Police Department has one of the hardest rifle and handgun quals. And I think that coming out of the academy, again, Quinonez and I already knew, hey, like we passed the post qual, but that is 25 rounds and Northglenn has 60 rounds. And so we
also shoot a little farther.
And we do shoot. We shoot a lot farther. And so we were like, oh my goodness. I remember we went to the range together because we were like, oh my gosh, we got to practice. Like, there are a lot of things. There's only a short amount of time that, the academy has to teach you all of the skills that you need. And so they really just try to stick to the basics and fundamentals of every skill. And so one thing that we didn't do in the academy was shoot with our offhand. And if we did, it was supported. And one part of the qualifications for our handgun is to shoot with your offhand with it unsupported. And you don't think about that. You don't think about, oh, what if I completely lose the function of my right hand and I need to use my left hand to shoot, or vice versa. And so like going through, I think that one of the hardest things, which Quinonez helped me with a lot in the academy, was just my mental space. Can I do this? Constantly doubting myself and just being like, oh, I don't think that I can shoot from 50 yards. I just need to be confident. I just need to go in there and I need to just tell myself that I know what I'm doing, even if I don't, and like it will come naturally.
And from the in-service, you mentioned FTO, right?
Yes.
So that can be stressful too, because that's where you take all the skills that you learned in the academy and in-service, and now you had to apply it in the real world, right? Or in the wild, right? So talk about, so it's 3 phases, 3 different FTOs.
Yep.
And then your last phase is a kind of like where it's like they call it a solo phase, but you have the FTO in your car in plain clothes.
Right.
So, talk about that experience, because you guys are almost done with that. So,
when you put on the uniform, like the first day, and you're like, okay, I'm in FTO. I'm actually gonna go on calls today. I'm actually gonna do stuff. It's so much different than like a ride along, because like the first phase, generally you're the passenger until they feel confident enough that you can drive and you know where you're going, you can get to places safely. And so, you get into the passenger seat and you're like, oh, it's just gonna be like a ride along. I'm just gonna observe and, see different things and get familiar with the community. But it's not like that at all. People see you in uniform and they're like, oh, officer, what, can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? And it's just so much different, especially I feel like as a female, and I'm like 5 foot, and on a regular day-to-day basis, no one is coming up to me asking me questions or doing anything like that or interacting with me like that. And the moment you put this uniform on, you're a different person to them. You are the light at the end of the tunnel. You might not be the light at the end of the tunnel. It might be the complete opposite, but they see you and they need something from you. And to feel that from somebody and to, feel like you can actually do something about somebody's problems is extremely meaningful to me. And so that's kind of like first phase. I remember I think it was like my 3rd or 4th, I think it was both of our 3rd or 4th day. We were together on first phase, the same shift. And they're like, okay, start the car, get in the driver's seat. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I didn't know I was driving. I thought, I don't know what I thought, but I was like, maybe second phase I'll drive. But I did not think first phase I'd be driving.
Coming out of in-house training, you're excited to go out into the field, but also at the same time you're nervous. It's something you've never done before. First day, it's obviously like a ride along. Like Officer Legg said, the public sees you as an officer, and it's something that it took me a while to get adjusted to, just because I'm like, I know what I'm doing, but the person riding with me, he knows a lot more. So if you have questions, you could ask them. But over time, you start realizing like, oh, this is what happens during this situation. This is what happens during this other situation. You start realizing how things unfold. You get aired out a call and you're like, oh, this is probably gonna happen next. So I should probably start doing this now. There are situations where I've been in and I'm like, oh, I've dealt with this before. But then there comes a minor twist that just throws you off your OODA loop and you're just like, I have no clue anymore. And you got to take just a quick 5 seconds, just rethink and re-strategize. Of course, FTO officers really do a great job. getting us ready for the field training. I know there's moments where I get stuck, and I know my trainer would be like, hey, take a deep breath, come talk to me, let me know what you have, and we'll go on from there. Obviously, phase 1 is a lot more FTO is taking charge, you're just watching. But midway through phase 1, they start pushing you to do a lot more. And I'm not as gifted as talking as Officer Legg is. Officer Legg can talk to anybody and everybody for hours. I've struggled with talking, communicating with other people, but over time, I've kind of gone out of that comfort zone.
And then second phase, it's basically they start transferring kind of everything to your side instead of being, the secondary officer kind of, and your FTO is kind of doing most of the talking. You start doing 50-50. If there's a DV, you talk to one, they talk to the other, and you kind of just work together. And then you get to third phase, and it's you. You go and you take the call. You make the initial contact. You make sure the scene is safe, and your FTO is there, and they're in their uniform still if you have any questions or anything like that. But it's really just you. Like, you are the primary officer, and your confidence starts to build, and also starts to sometimes simmer. But that's always like the best call, where you get like that light bulb of like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. But now every single time I get a similar call, that's going to be the first thing on my mind, and it's going to be way easier for me to tackle that hurdle and not even have to, think twice about it, so I can get to the resolution of the problem.
Moving on to phase 2. Phase 2 was one of those points where it's like field training officer takes 50%, you take 50% of the workload. But I feel like here in Northglenn, they always want you to push some more, and they keep pushing you and pushing you. So sometimes it feels like you're doing 80 and they're doing 20. That's what it feels like. But sometimes when you look back at it, you're like, I feel like I could have done more. They're probably doing more than I was.
I'm in shadow phase right now with a plain clothed officer, and we've had a wild week. And it's like third phase, but like you look over and you're like, I gotta call somebody else because I can't ask you a question. So then you gotta pull over and you gotta call somebody else and ask. But it teaches you, like, if this officer isn't in the car, I can pull over at any moment. I can call my sergeant. I can call another officer, and they're not gonna be like, oh goodness, here's Officer Legg again asking a question. They're like, yeah, like, you can do this, this, this. You have discretion, like, what do you think? And they still let you come to the conclusion on your own. And it's just really nice to know that, like, every shift that we have here, like, they are willing to help you. There's someone on every single shift that's willing to help guide you in the right direction, whether or not you have cover on the car or whether or not you have somebody else in your car.
So you guys are finishing up your training. So, and this is, so I'm doing this chatting with the chief, looking at our past, our present, and our future. And of course, you guys are our future, right? So what kind of goals that you want to get accomplished over the next 5 years? I know, Rece, you have incredible leadership skills. I watched you, for Christmas grade, move people around, doing all that stuff. So I have no doubt that you're going to take on a leadership task, in the future. Oscar, same thing, you're in community engagement and everything that you've been doing. I see you as a trainer, DTAC trainer. I think was it SWAT too, the other thing that you really wanted to do. And so I look forward to your futures of what you guys are going to do. So tell me what you would like to see over the next 5 years with your careers.
I think I know I have to complete 3 years before I even think about an SRO position. But I think something that I've really admired and I've seen in the Northglenn Police Department is our Lincoln units, our school resource officers that we have here. Actually, my current FTO is going into the schools this coming school year. And I think that would just be the most amazing, rewarding job. Getting to know the kids that are going to grow up in your community, into adults, into the people that we interact with every single day, knowing those people, knowing their parents, knowing the educators in our community. I think that is so powerful. And I think that is something 100% within the next 5 years I can see myself starting to get ready for and prepare myself for. I just love, literally, I love interacting with all the kids. It's why I love day shift so much, because we can go and we can do the school lockdowns and everything. And, they're serious drills and we go in there and we take them seriously. But once it's over, to like see the kids be so prideful and like, oh my gosh, I did good. This officer said I did good. And then on top of that, again, community outreach, community engagement within the next 5 years. Any community outreach that I can be a part of, that's definitely my goal, to just continuously volunteer.
Well, I'm going to challenge you before that, because one of the ideas that came through, we have a teen police academy.
Oh.
Right? So, but the other thing that we really want to do is engage, because I think recruiting from our community is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a school where, they have a police and fire type classes that they do. I would love to put together a cadet program,
mm-hmm.
and then having officers kind of be responsible for those cadets to inspire those
100%.
Young people to come into this career, because that's so important.
Yeah.
Looking at those, and I'm, like I said, I'm just smiling because as I'm on the other side of my career, I see who's coming up and who's going to replace me and all of that. So that's pretty exciting too on that. So Oscar, what about you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So thanks, Rece.
In 5 years, my dream used to be like wanting to join some federal agency.
What?
That was always my dream. But once I started doing this, I'm like, I don't know, like this is probably one of the top things I've done, and I feel like I'm gonna keep pursuing this career as much as I can. Obviously doing DTAC. DTAC really caught my attention. It was a tough week, but the instructors and the way they were able to teach us all the defensive tactics that they knew, plus some more, it really inspired me, just because if you have that extra training, you're able to keep not only yourself, but also your partners safe out in the field. SWAT has caught my attention too. I know it's tough and it's probably a long road to get there, but SWAT is one of those programs that I'd be looking forward to joining, hopefully, if I'm able to. And I feel as if a school resource officer as well, just because there's a lot of kids out there that you see here in Northglenn that just look up to you. When I was a kid, I know I would look up to officers, and I'm from Commerce City, so I look up to the Commerce City officers I would see once in a while. I hope that by seeing me in my uniform and doing what I do, they're able to see that they can have a better life choice. They can make better life choices than the ones that they see their other friends do. And because the area I grew up around with, I've seen a lot of people do poor life choices, and it's led them to a bad place in life.
So with that, what kind of advice would you give someone to enter this field or get in touch with us, or just give some advice to those that are maybe interested? So for you, can you give it, and then Oscar, I'm gonna make you do it in Spanish.
Oh, wonderful. My advice is to lead with your passion. Find whatever is persuading you or pushing you in the direction of law enforcement, and whatever that passion is, hold on to it. Hold on to it the entire process, and you will find the right department. I believe that Northglenn Police Department, if you are passionate about community engagement, if you're passionate about customer service, if you're passionate about community outreach and making sure that everyone is heard, that everybody has a voice, the Northglenn Police Department is 100% the department to be at. And once you apply, continue to be patient. Be patient with the process, be patient with your testing. There's a million applicants, and one thing that I can tell you is that even though there are all these applicants, continue to be confident in yourself. That is the beauty of the Northglenn Police Department. We cherish diversity. And so if you are looking at yourself and you're like, I can't do it, I'm not physically fit yet, I'm not, at my peak or whatever, I don't know anything about CRS. Neither did we. We never even held a gun. So you can do it. Continue to be confident in yourself. Know that you're unique. Know that that Northglenn Police Department values your uniqueness and your diversity and where you come from and your story. And if you lead with passion and you lead with your heart, and you truly, truly have a passion for law enforcement and helping our community, you will succeed in Northglenn, and they will do anything and everything in their power to make sure that you have the help and the assistance that you need to be a good police officer in the city of Northglenn.
Thank you, Oscar.
Un consejo que le doy a la gente hispana, a la gente latina que vive en la ciudad de Northglenn, es que si tienen sueños de seguir una carrera de ser policía o algo así, pueden entrar aquí en el departamento de Northglenn. Hay mucha gente que tiene miedo de salir de sus casas a seguir una diferente carrera, pero nosotros del departamento de Northglenn aceptamos a todos. Nosotros tratamos de hacer todo lo que podamos hacer para ayudarle a que agarre sus sueños, hacerlos en realidad. Si usted quiere seguir una carrera así, es importante tener su salud mental que esté bien. Nosotros podemos asegurarle que eso vaya a pasar. En esta carrera sí es difícil y es importante que tenga la gente que los va a apoyar. Y aquí yo he encontrado a la gente que me apoyan los sueños que quiero hacer realidad. El departamento de Northglenn tiene muchas oportunidades y sí, la comunidad aquí hay mucha gente hispana aquí, y tener más hispanos, más latinos que pueden trabajar aquí, los pueden ayudar más a ayudar a nuestra gente. Es una carrera difícil, pero con su poder y sus ganas de seguir adelante, todo se puede lograr.
Well, thank you both. I think Northglenn and the residents seeing this video will be like, oh my gosh, Northglenn's in great hands for the future. And I appreciate you both coming in and talking, to me. And I'm excited for both of you and, presenting you to our community. And you're going to be on your own here really soon. Enjoy the ride, enjoy the experiences. Keep positive. I think that's the thing. Make sure you stay positive on how you do it. Because sometimes we get to see the ugly part, right? And which is tough. We see people sometimes at their worst. We see tragedy on a daily basis, but take care of yourselves. That's super important. That's my advice to you. And so you always have resources. My office door is always open for you if you ever need anything. But keep up the great work. You guys are doing fantastic. So I'm super proud of both of you.
Thank you, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you.